Welcome to another Davinci Resolve tips and tricks episode. In this one, we're gonna touch on nodes. So I created this grayscale gradient just to theoretically exemplify the nodes. Whenever you open a clip, you will always find just one node here, or one corrector node or serial node. So this is the source, which is your clip. So this is RGB coming into, so green is RGB coming into RGB and outputting RGB, and this is your output. The blue input, this is for key. We're gonna see this especially in further episodes when I talk about keying green screens. So I'm gonna call this serial. You can add a serial node pressing Command S. That's downstream, and if you want to add from here upstream, Shift S, and it will add one before this node. This node, whatever I do, let's say I'm gonna add blue to this node, and you can see here in the waveform, it's just gonna add this correction to the whole image. Gain this correction, in this case blue, in this case is, like a fan, just opening up from the same point, but leaving the darker part of the image more untouched. Gamma is, is the midtone, so you can see what this curve is doing, and obviously the lift is gonna act in the opposite way as the the inverted fan as a gain. So there you go, and you can use this. You can create yourself a grayscale and see how this reacts, how log reacts to the curves. That's like peace and love, and HDR as well. So you can have a play and see how different things affect your image. But in this case, we're just going down the tangent. We're talking about nodes. So yeah, the first one, serial, is your bread and butter. Is most corrections are done on serial nodes. We talked about IDT and ODT, and all these are done with the serial nodes. Go here and let's go. The serial node is the corrector node. Then we have parallel mixer, layer mixer, and these other three that I'm gonna touch at a later stage. So let's go with parallel mixer first, and I'm gonna add one more node with Alt S, and then with Alt P I'm gonna add another 3 nodes in total. So this is still like your regular nodes. What defines how they react is this add-on, which is a parallel node, and you can morph this or change this into layer mixer node, and the icon changes, and you can see sort of what it does. This one on top of each other, and the other one is a different icon. Sort of mixes things up. But yeah, I'm gonna exemplify this sort of theoretically, but for you to see, I'm gonna create 3 circles. Let's start with a red circle. Let's not soft, let's have hard circles. I'm gonna do this quickly, but I'm gonna create, you guess now, green and blue. Here we are. So this is what your parallel mixer does, which is it combines all the 3 or however many changes you want to have. Let's add something odd, like a square, and let's add darkness. Yeah, so in different ways they are all mixed together, and every single thing you do will affect, obviously if it's outside, if I'm not touching the other corrector, it will do its own thing as if it was an extra serial node here, but the whole thing of having them together coming through the parallel mixer node is the ability to combine these effects. I'm gonna park it there, then I'm gonna show you tangible real life examples. But look what happens. So the same thing, I'm gonna add an extra node. I'm pressing Alt L. I'm gonna add another 3 nodes. But rather than doing this and duplicating all this, I'm just gonna change, and you can see the difference in the icons, right? I'm gonna do what I showed you before, which is just changing this from parallel node to a layer mixer node. Voila. So the layer, it just literally acts as layers. The confusing thing is because we all come from Premiere, from After Effects, and more of a layer based software, Oh, even Photoshop, like the top layer is the one that covers everything that is behind, and sort of, it makes sense. In this way, it's upside down, if you will. So your bottom layer, and again, I'm gonna add an extra one for show, and I'm gonna make it dark. So the bottom one is covering the whole thing. Like, it's not about position, it's about connection. So if, let's say, just put it there so it shows. So if I want to send this behind the blue, I just connect it where the blue is and connect the blue here. So I'm sending that behind our blue ball. And that is pretty much the concept of layer nodes. I'm going to delete this. Click on your last node. You have serial or serial before, parallel, layer, or outside. The ones we saw here before, when it says add node, the key, splitter, and combiner, these are more complicated, and we won't be using them. But as I said, at a later stage, when we come into keying, I'm gonna touch on a few of these. For the time being, I'll show you what serial is, serial before, and I'll show you the shortcuts. We just saw parallel and layer mixer, and now I'm gonna show you what an outside node is. Let me do it with a tangible example. So let's go to a clip like this. So I'm gonna darken the space around her face and give it really, really soft, actually like that, but really, really uber soft. I'm gonna bring gamma down, yeah, and completely the opposite. I don't want her face. I want the outside of the circle of the power window. So I click here, and that's the outside, before and after. Yeah. So I'm leaving her face mostly untouched. If we press Shift H, we can see what it's been affected, which in this case is the outside part. So her face is pretty much untouched. We're just darkening. I'm gonna make it more obvious. Just darkening the edges. I'm gonna make this bigger so you can see the whole circle that I have. I'm gonna close this so you can see it bigger. I'm gonna right click on this, and I'm gonna add an outside node. Boom. So you can see here that not only the RGB information has been transmitted, but also the key information, which in this case is the mask. But the mask, as you just saw me playing with this, is not added here. It's just coming from a source node. So let me do something. So as we said before, if this is my original mask, the outside node is the opposite of this node. Just because I inverted this and we work first on the outside, then this one will work on the inside. And we can see the mask, again pressing Shift H, this is gonna affect this, and my original was the opposite. So say if I wanna just leave her face for a reason, actually let me bring the whole exposure down so it'll make it a bit more dramatic. So the benefit of this, first, this is easy. You create a mask. In this case, I wanted to highlight her face and darken the surrounding so it gets a bit more attention rather than this. Everything's a bit more flat. So we're concentrating on her face and her face only. So this is a quick way of doing that. Look what happens. If I were to modify the mask, see what's happened here. This one modifies this one as well. So let me do it with like this. You can see I'm gonna bring it a bit closer, and that's modifying that. I'm gonna make it more obvious and come like that. That's modifying it like that. But not only that, if I were to have more movement in her face, let me just concentrate that there, and let's do a quick track. Yeah, ever so slightly moves. It's completely glued to her face. Super powerful tracking in Davinci Resolve. This information, this track information, also moves here right? So I don't have to retrack the outside or the vignette or whatever. This will translate through the key information every single thing that I affect on this mask. And yeah, this is just how outside nodes work, and I think they're pretty powerful. I'm gonna use this clip to show you how to use layer mixer nodes on a practical example. So I'm gonna create with Alt S another serial node and Alt L a layer mixer node. I'm gonna call this look, and I'm gonna call this skin. So I'll show you before, the layer mixer nodes, they act like layers. So the bottom layer will obscure the top one. So in this case, the top one is going to be our, so name it our look. So I'm gonna do something very, very simple. I'm gonna, oh, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Nothing's working. Can you tell me why? You can see here, it is working on this node, but this layer is obscuring this one. So I'm gonna reset this node, and I'm gonna disable this so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm gonna go quite extreme so you see the results, the extreme results. I'm gonna inject some teal into the shadows, and I'm gonna inject some orange into the highlights, and I'm gonna probably get the shadows a bit more crunchy that way. Yeah, so I'm gonna enable the skin node, and you have two routes here. In this case, in this particular shot, I'm not going to qualify her skin because she's gonna look very different to the background. So what I want to create is a nice gradient. I'm gonna press Shift. A nice gradient. So you know some of that correction, that look that we did here, and you can see what's going on, right? Enable that. You can see, actually, let me do hard edges so you can see. So this layer is obscuring that one. So wherever we move this circle, we are bypassing, so to speak, or yeah, obscuring this layer. So as I said, you know, if it was just her skin and skin only and not the hair or the t-shirt, it would be quite harsh, despite the harshness of the mask. So I want to create something very, very soft around her skin and hair, so it's a nice gradient rather than the harsh one. And you can see how we're preserving the look behind her, but her face is intact, her skin tone, that's what matters. But as I did the gradient, you can see here in the hair how this is tinting a little bit the hair, so it becomes even here in the skin, that point, so it becomes more realistic, more integrated with the look. And now that we have the two things separated, you know, we can start tweaking with the look. Just take it, you know, where you actually like. Yeah, you can always track it. And I mean, this is a long clip, there's not much movement, she just moves left and right. I'm not gonna track it all the way, but yeah, this is one of the many ways. Then you can, you know, become very creative. But you know, this is sort of the usual way to separate skin tones from, you know, from an overall look. Okay, I'm gonna use this clip just to make it more clear how serial nodes work. So this is our source. So I can actually delete this node, and this is the source. This is the video. So we're gonna create now a node that's connected to the source. It's gonna modify something, and it's gonna go straight to the output. So for instance, this is a Rec 709 image, and it's already graded and looking good. So for the sake of the tutorial, I'm gonna do a bit of cooling. Yeah, so let's call this just balance for the sake of the tutorial. I'm gonna add another serial node. I'm gonna bring this to, I'm gonna desaturate it completely, black and white. I'm gonna head and add yet another node. I call it black and white. I'm gonna call this saturation, and yeah, this is again for tutorial sake, and I'm gonna bump the saturation. I'm gonna bump the color boost, but there's no color, there's nothing to saturate because it's feeding from the previous node. not from this one. If it was directly from that one, let's bypass that. Yeah, so it's saturating and boosting these colors. But because I added a black and white now in between, there's nothing to do here. So basically we start with node 1. This will, in this way, just mix or carry on the RGB information into here. And here's when we desaturate the image. And here, what we're carrying in here is this desaturated image. So you can come here to this node and add some tinting, but no saturation. Obviously you can saturate the tint, but there's no color in the image. Yeah, this is doing nothing. Some of the examples that you may encounter or use is just when you create many power windows to do what we call like dodge and burn. So I'm gonna do one for the window. I'm gonna create one for the sofa. It's an overall thing. I'm gonna create one for the top of the table, and the last one I'm gonna do a fairly harsh vignette, and I'm gonna do this because this is touching every single one, so it's gonna affect and mix all the other ones in one go. So say I come here, I'm gonna add a glow effect, warm this up, a bit more like anamorphic lens, bring up the gain. Sofa, yeah, maybe create highlight. Yeah, just bring highlight top of the table. Yeah, only highlights. And then to the overall, I'm gonna really bring it down, invert it, and really even the offset, just create a really harsh. So all the other layers are affected and they are combining naturally into one. I'm gonna play this back quickly. I'm gonna press Shift F so we can get the image a bit bigger. I mean, very quickly, an example sake, we went from a cool, really nice short image, fairly flat, to something a bit more stylized. I mean, I was just playing with it. Obviously, I think it's way too much. Most of the secondaries, I do them this way, either it's parallel or layer mixer. I recommend, starting with, whatever, if you want to grab Rex 109 and you can start touching colors or actually implementing the color management and get a log image. But yes, by really playing and grading and looking for different things in a clip is how you learn, really. But I said it a few times, I'm going to say it again, notes are ideas. So if you don't have any idea, then yeah, you don't need many nodes. You just need to do a basic correction to move a logarithmic image into Rec 709, balance all the shots you have. For the grade, if you don't have any good ideas, at least give it a bit, good contrast, good colors, and then start experimenting. As I said before, when I sort of started, I was trying to white balance every single image. Like, this is not a very white balance, but that is not the idea. It's still the whites are not too tinted, which is fine, but the whole image as a whole, yeah, it's super warm here. As an overall thing, I cooled it down, cooled the shadows. So yeah, either here or here you can see the separation. So sometimes it's great to have really clean white image, but some of the time you need to start separating those colors to make them shine individually in different areas of your image. So for me, a node is an idea. If you don't have a further idea of what to do to this image apart from the things that you ought to do as a colorist, fixing things if you have to fix, hopefully not, is the idea is for colorists not to fix things but to create things. For you to be an artist, this is a color palette for you to play with and create moods, intentions, feelings, and whatever you want to do as an artist. So yeah, I mean, just play. And the more you play, the more you touch things and say, see how this looks. I don't know. And experiment. Say, oh, this is cool. Yeah, maybe for Instagram. I don't know, for a music video. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this session. It's all a matter of practice. Just get in there and just add many different notes, see how they react, etc. Yeah, see you next time.